So here are one or two questions I want you, if you're new to this segment, I want you to be asking yourself. For those people who were here last week, excuse the repetition. Do you feel emotionally drained by most people you closely relate to? That's a huge tip off that you are not being truthful to yourself, and you're probably also not being truthful to them. That's not a healthy relationship. All right. Do they in some way do you end up, all right, do they make you feel, or do you somehow turn it around yourself because you've been trained to do that? That's what you know to do, to feel guilty or bad about yourself. You don't come out of that exchange without feeling bad about yourself. All right. So if that's true, if this is a frequent internal experience for you, it's time to listen to it and try to make the adjustments that are necessary. That is no way to spend your life. All right, you're on the wrong track. To get those relationships in particular, those significant relationships, it is possible, but you have to be the instrument of change. You cannot count on the other person responding in the way you want or need them to. You need to set that path on a healthier, more sustainable footing. And if that relationship is significant or important to you, by doing that, you're not putting the relationship in jeopardy. You might be putting it on bumpy water for a while, but you're not putting that relationship in jeopardy. You're actually giving it the food and the way to be sustainable so that it becomes a healthier relationship by being far more reciprocal. Reciprocal is the operative word in a healthy relationship. The give and the take on both sides. If you're giving and taking on just your side, you want to have a look at that. Are you struggling with depression or dysthymia? And has it worsened? Does it worsen when you have exchanges with these people? There's a whole podcast on dysthymia. When I did a blog on Psychology Today for dysthymia, just because I thought it would be an interesting topic, slightly different from depression and anxiety, I had 22,000 hits in 24 hours. This is a common experience. Do you know how many I had in 72 hours when I did narcissistic parenting traits? I had 35,000 hits in 72 hours. That's unheard of. All right, unheard of. Back to your feelings. Do you feel anxious? And I want to say paralyzed, but really it's more frozen. You know that moment when somebody does something and you go, oh, I could make this significantly worse. Whoa, and I don't quite know what to say. I don't quite know how to react. Well, I know how I want to react. I'm Irish. I always know how I want to react. But sometimes I have to go, you know what, let's just rein that one in a bit. We don't want to actually leave marks on the people verbally, that sting of the tongue. So you go, whoa. Are you frequently in that position where you're put on the defensive and you don't know, you can't quite figure out why or how, and you're frozen? All right. If that happens a lot, you're probably dealing with someone who is exhibiting some degree of narcissistic traits. Do you find it hard to be present and to participate in your own life? Or are you always sort of like the Walmart greeter, responding to somebody else's needs? You're just waiting, you're hovering. Okay, what's going to be expected of me now? What should I do in this situation? I want you to start translating that over to at least half of the time to begin. What do I want to do right now? What do I think is the right thing, not just for the other person, but for this dynamic relationship? And have a dynamic relationship with yourself. All right? Have a dynamic, be present. Okay, take a bite out of your own life and enjoy it. Take a risk. What's the worst that could happen? So we're going to look at some thought patterns, some insecurities, some challenges when you have had a healthy dose of narcissism in your growing up, or it could even be in your present life right now. You don't have to have grown up with a narcissistic parent or significant other. You might attract one, all right, as a partner. What do you do then? All right, because it doesn't take very long to start losing your footing if you're not solid, if you don't have solid self-esteem. Let's look a little bit at self-doubt. How many times do you say to yourself, and it's the frequency, we all should ask ourselves sometime, is that me? That's a healthy thing to do, but not when it's the preponderance of what you do. All right, self-doubt. Okay. So, do you second guess yourself? Maybe I should have. Oh, that didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. Do you dwell on it? Weeks, months later, you're still having that intrusive thought come to mind. Say, oh, gee, here's a lineup of all the things I've done wrong. And oh, yeah, there was that one too. All right. How's that going to help? The past is in the past. If you didn't learn from it, that's the only thing you want to do right now. You don't want to be beating yourself up, continuing to beat yourself up, feeling that hot wash of shame. Oh, that cringe when you, where was that crack in the earth when I needed it? All right. Just let yourself out of jail. All right. If you still have something to learn from that experience, for heaven's sakes, learn it. Learn it, take a good bite out of it, and carry it forward. All right, that's the best that you should hope for yourself. That's the most responsibility. Do you have a hard time loving yourself? And I mean loving yourself, warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know what? We're going to try to rein in the ugly, because if you're Irish, it can get pretty snappy. If you're anything, it can get pretty snappy. Okay, we're going to keep an eye on that, but we know it's there. We're sort of like the child who you hold its hand and you say, okay, be polite. All right, be polite. Stay beside me and be polite. Okay. Do you have a hard time loving yourself and appreciating yourself? Are you even at this point in your life sure of who and what you're all about? Are you more about what the other person expects you to be? And it's only in reflected acceptance that determines what you say, what you do, what you react to, what you deprive yourself of? In the last 5 days, how many times have you been authentic to yourself? And how many times have you traded off being a pleaser? It's okay to please people. That's okay. There's nothing. It's about all or nothing. It's about way too much of your lifetime and your life force goes to, what does the other guy expect? How can I earn acceptance? Okay, that's not the way to a clear identity. So if you find it hard to identify and understand yourself and your needs, what do I need? 3 questions, people. What do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make the difference? All right. Anytime you're questioning yourself, what do I need? Because if I don't, it's not they meet my needs. No. If I don't even know what my needs are and I don't take responsibility for meeting my own needs and expressing if another person is a part of that, If I do the passive aggressive thing, no, that's not healthy. Just say it. What's the worst that's going to happen? So long as when you say it, you don't blame the other person for not meeting your needs, they're not responsible for meeting your needs. No one in my life or in your life is responsible for meeting my needs. No one. Not my husband, not my parents, because they can't possibly know truthfully what my needs are. It's my job. I'm a big girl. I put my big girl pants on and I figure it out. What are my needs? And they can change. They're not a static thing. Your need can alter slightly depending on the context that you're in. Or sometimes the other person's response can mitigate, but you don't give up your need. You just, maybe it's a slightly different balance. Try to feel it. If you don't feel it, you can't find it. Do you find it hard to define who you are? What about that negative self-talk? Hands up, anybody who verbally beat themselves up this past week. Come on. Come on, everybody, tell the truth. Yes, of course. We have to stop that. You know why? Because when we do that, we are sending a hormonal balance to our brain of chemicals, hormones, fight, flight, crisis, stress, anxiety, fear, whatever it is. And that negative self-talk, just up the milligrams. All right, there's that kind of self-awareness. Yes, okay, keeping yourself balanced on the good, the preferred action that you're going to take. But when you engage in negative self-talk, you basically cut the legs out from under yourself. Now you're limping. How are you ever going to move forward limping? And what good does it do to injure yourself that way? If you made a mistake, own it. If you hurt somebody else, go and apologize and make up for it. It's not just cheap talk. If you've got some making up to do, do it. All right, own the mistake. Doesn't diminish you. And it doesn't give the other person the advantage if you're afraid that they'll take advantage of you. Own it. Once you own it, it's done. And then try your best not to repeat it, but stop beating yourself up for it. Learn from it and leave it. Okay. Do you frequently give in to the inner criticism? And whose voice is on that inner criticism? Do you dwell when you make one mistake? Do you just go topple, 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 topple the last 6 things you did? Do you gang up on yourself? Do you feel like whatever you do is just never good enough? If you feel that way, and that is a chronic feeling, that's a frequent feeling, you want to go back to every one of the narcissistic podcasts and you want to listen to them. That is a red flag that you're living under some kind of punitive, unrealistic and unfair assessment of you, okay? Because people, how can that possibly be true, that you're never good enough? Even a stop clock is right twice a day. Okay, how can you be wrong and not good enough all the time? It can't happen. I wouldn't take odds on it. Okay, nobody, if that was a horse race, would bet on that one. So don't you bet on it. And out of that, do you just dig up any feelings of inadequacy that make you feel damaged, alone? It's too late in life. My life is all over. I've ruined it. It's never. If you've got breath in you, if you've got breath in you right now, just check, inhale, exhale. If you've got breath in you, you can still do it. And I don't want to hear, and I won't tell you how old I am, but I don't want to hear anybody saying they're too old. All right. You know why? Because the less the more days we've spent on this earth, the more precious every single one of the rest of them is. It's more precious. And you're smarter. You're wiser. You're more experienced. Yes, you may be battered and bruised. All right. But you're smarter. You're wiser. You can do it. You can do it. You have everything in you, maybe a little coaching, maybe a little support to get you to where you need to be. So there's no need. Next time you feel alone in this world, all right, know that you are not on your own side and you're talking yourself out of the better decision that's right in front of you. How many people can identify with feeling helpless? All right. Do you feel like you've got very little control over your life? Why is that? What are the characteristics that make you feel that you have very little control over your life? Do you feel tired of trying to be strong and make things better? In the moment right now, break it down. If it's too heavy to carry right now, if that feeling is too heavy, all right, to be strong enough to make things better, break it down. And keep breaking it down. And if that's too heavy, break it down again. And if that's too heavy, keep breaking it down. This is your life. This is your life. All right. And the most important thing is to keep breaking the struggle down until you can carry it. Until you can carry it. All right. Because this is your life. This is your life, and you don't get another one that we can be sure of. Okay. So we're going to spend the next half hour doing a whistle stop. We may run over a little. A whistle stop to steps to healing and rewriting your story. Whoever wrote that past version, if they had narcissistic traits, there's going to be huge edits. All right, huge edits in the form of authenticity. You're going to rewrite that. So it's not easy finding out that some significant other that you counted on for love, affection, acceptance, guidance, protection, even as a child, behaved like a narcissist. That's not easy. And it can be hard to overcome. It is hard to overcome, particularly if all of those people who either enabled the narcissist or were the narcissist are the voices on the committee that is in your head every time you're not sure of what to do, and the committee convenes and everybody gets a vote, and you're so confused because they're talking over each other. It doesn't sound like something you can do, and you end up even more overwhelmed. All right. Do you freak you choices because it will interfere with someone else's good? We need to rewrite that. You have your entitlement to your place on this earth, and they have theirs. And when you get your needs met, it doesn't deprive anybody else of their needs. All right. Sometimes when you work in tandem with someone, either on a team, a couple, a family, sometimes you will harmonize so that there's a sequencing of you getting your needs met and them getting their needs met. That's called sharing and cooperation. But nobody ever has to give up their need. Nobody ever has to acquiesce to somebody else's needs. And if you find yourself doing that a lot, we need to look at that. Okay, we've all been there. We've all made that mistake where we go, oh, no, the other person needs it more. And it can get to be a habit. All right. But when you're feeling empty and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling kind of like you're caught in a, is this real life? Am I awake right now? Am I really involved in my life? I can't make decisions. I'm so overwhelmed. All right. When you're stuck in that kind of no man's land, just getting through, you got to stop and ask yourself, this is not the path you were supposed to be on. You're either off your path or you're on somebody else's, and it's not working for you. All right. All right. And know that if we don't actually practice some of the things we're going to talk about today, we don't actually make a commitment. It's one thing to hear them. It's one thing to know them. Now you have to practice them. It's like a dance step. It looks really good when you're watching it on the TV screen. Okay, it's really good. But in order to actually get the benefit and the life from it, the experience from it, you have to do it. All right. Okay. So you're probably aware of how that narcissist voice and the messages still remain in your subconscious. They do. Okay. And when you're vulnerable, you're feeling insecure, you're feeling unlovable, you're feeling unworthy, you made a mistake. It's amazing how once again that narcissist voice grabs the opportunity and pops to the surface with a helpful suggestion. Remember, a narcissist only speaks in their own voice. They are never speaking to your benefit. That's a contradiction in terms. All right. And if it feels good, whatever they're saying or doing, it feels good, there's something in it for them. In fact, there's more in it for them than there ever was for you. You just aren't spotting it. Right now, as you're listening to me, I want you to give yourself credit, even if that's been the vast experience up till now that you've had. I want you to give yourself credit for making the effort required to learn about narcissism and to survive and persevere. And for joining these podcasts to learn about the effects on you so that you can start putting yourself into more of the balanced equations in your life starting today, moving forward, and you can practice and get pretty good at what do I need, where is it, and how do I get enough of it to make a difference. And then when you love and support yourself in that way, you can help others you love to do the same thing. And your environment, everybody who knows you, then is better off for knowing you. And it's a gift you give them, but it doesn't cost you what you need. All right. Okay. Acceptance. Don't fight it. Acceptance is the first step, and it may be the hardest in changing. Looking at somebody and saying, they weren't 100% a narcissist, but they really were. Wow, who knew that's what that was? But that rings truer than anything else I've heard. All right. It can be the hardest thing in changing. Now, are you going to just get rid of those messages? Probably not in the first step. Probably not for a while. But it's about keeping those voices, those messages in their place. And when they come up, practicing turning the volume off. Turning the volume off or turning it down. How do you turn the volume down? When the narcissist voice and their suggestion, their judgment, their whatever comes up, you come up equally and you put something that is equally true, that there's evidence of, to counter that point. That may have been true, possibly, in that situation, but this is also true. And if this negative to any extent is true about me, then this positive is also true about me. All right, you start that today. Every time one of those unhelpful messages comes up. And you don't have to stop loving the narcissist. You don't have to judge them. You just have to have your antenna up so you can spot it coming. They are not entitled to your space. They are not entitled to your love, your mind. When they're manipulating you, they are not entitled to your love. Not just because they are a significant other. Respect, maybe. You respect that they are different from you. All right. They are entitled to their needs, but it's their job to get them met, not by depriving you of anything in your life. Right? They don't get your space. Nobody gets your space. Your space in your mind, your space in your values, your space in your heart, your space in your time. They don't get it. They're not entitled to it. And they can't make you give it up. Only you can give in and give it up. Stop doing that. That's when you ask yourself, all together now, what do I need in this moment that you're feeling shaky? Somebody's doing something that is impinging on you. What do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it? And if you need time, if you need to call a timeout, call it. I'll have to think about that and get back to you. Leave the scene, all right, where you can get your mind straight again. You can, okay, what was that about? All right, what was that about? Okay, the other thing too is be patient and gentle with yourself. Rome was not built in a day, all right? Start saying to yourself, when you feel that coming up, whatever that experience internally is, the first awareness of it, I want the first thing you to say to yourself to be, enough is enough. Enough is enough. It stops today. Even if you're just saying that internally, maybe you're around the committee and the committee is going, well, yeah, but you know what you should do? Oh, that was, remember when you made that mistake? Take my advice. All right. And you say to yourself, whoa. Nah. Anything that's legal, okay, and isn't self-harm or harm to others, just shut them out and think, I need to go somewhere. I know when I have that feeling, I head for the showers. There's nothing, I'm a water baby. What are you? Where would you go? What would you, it's there, it's right there for the having. Where would you go? What would you do? Do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to smell pretty. I don't know. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you work out. Maybe you take the dog for a walk. Maybe you remind yourself that your dog loves you, even if this person is giving you a hard time. And dogs are always right. And cats are always right. Okay. If your dog loves you, you're a good person. Okay. The other thing I want you to remind yourself of is I'm worth more than to be ignored, to be silenced, to be discounted, made fun of, mocked, teased, overpowered mentally by some kind of competition for legitimacy, for being right, wrong, informed, not informed, intelligent, unintelligent, emotional. You're just too sensitive. I didn't mean to step on your foot and break it. You're just being too sensitive. It was an accident. I didn't intend it. It doesn't matter if you intended it. You're not responsible for what you intended to do. You are responsible for what you accomplished. Remember that, okay? And you're not going to accept being mistreated. That's not a paranoid word. Mistreated. You're not going to accept that anymore. And you know what? In the beginning, you're going to be satisfied that you just have a hunch. It's just a vague feeling. You haven't practiced it and you don't have the name for it yet. That's why it's a vague feeling. You're entitled. You're entitled to feel the way you feel. All right. The first skill, okay, after you accept, yeah, you know what? Best chance is there was a fair amount of narcissism there. Doesn't make them a bad person, but it does make them, you need to have your antenna up. You need to be on the lookout for the narcissistic behaviors. It's involuntary. Are they deliberately doing it? No, it's second nature to them. Do they mean to hurt you? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but they're still going to. All right. Yep. They will run over you like a tank and blame you for being in the way and slowing them down. Okay. The first skill, okay, is to develop emotional intelligence. Not being raised in a healthy environment often does create a predisposition for what your narcissistic other may have labeled you as. You're just spoiled. Oh, you're such a brat. You're oversensitive. Oh, you're so emotional. I'm the intelligent, intellectual one. You're the emotional one. Well, you know what? Both of us are only half alive. Because if I have to be the emotional one, that means you're not being, right? Well, everybody is the balance of all their parts. All right. If you question yourself for being too emotional, too sensitive, or unstable, okay, know that you're not alone. Okay, that's a feeling. It's not a fact. And the range of emotions you feel shows a capacity for empathy. If you can feel it for yourself, you can feel it for others. That may be more than the other guy can say. It also shows a capacity for emotional richness. So don't let it take on a nasty negative connotation. All right? Start now honoring yourself. But you do that by making time and space in your day for your emotions. You can't get around to them. That's the thing about emotions. They say, I'm here, and I need you. Okay, we are in trouble here. All right. You don't schedule that. You don't book them. Okay, well, let's make an appointment and get back to you. You've got to make time and space in your day for your emotions. Feel them. Don't overthink them. Don't get yourself caught up in the, I wonder why I'm thinking that. Feel it first. Name it. Name the feelings as they arise. Give them names, just like friends. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Dina. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Janine. Hello, Giselle. Okay? Alina, Roberta, 47. Okay, name them. Make friends of them. Become familiar with knowing what they are, and that will lead you to what they mean for you, or what they're connected to. But if you don't make friends with them by naming them, they remain kind of a vague mystery that's inconvenient and probably interrupts your day. Feeling and recognizing your emotions for what they are, instead of thinking about them or judging them, or even worse, judging yourself for feeling in certain ways. When you name them and you allow yourself to feel them and experience them, it doesn't mean they have to disrupt your whole day. Ooh, what was that? All right, give it a name. That's half the work. Now you know it. Now you have a word for it. Your emotions, know this though, it doesn't mean that your emotions define you. They don't. But they are only your response to whatever experience you're having at that moment. When you get a little better at this, you'll start seeing patterns that you're able to predict. Right? That helps you to either embrace those experiences or time limit them if that's not something you want to feel. Okay? They're human experiences. They're not negative. Even when the feelings don't make you feel good, they are friends. They're telling you something. They're telling you a story about yourself in that moment. Listen to it. Don't try to be anything other than who you are. You're entitled to them. If they're immense and they come up at a time when it's not possible, Promise them a time to get back to them. It's okay. Once you get a little better at naming and experiencing and realizing what they are, it's okay to compartmentalize and come back to it. Not in the beginning, though. Not in the beginning. Okay. Also, try giving yourself the option, okay, of peace and tranquility by meditating. So feel the emotions. Meditation, with a little bit of practice, okay, you can find peace and clarity. Another strategy is practicing mindfulness. Right? Stay in the moment. Mindfulness is just be in the moment, stay in the moment, and give yourself a chance to authentically process what is and has just happened internally. It doesn't take a long time. It's a little glitchy in the beginning because you're not used to it. But what was that? No, I'm not moving on to the next thing. I'm not finished with this thing. What was that? What does it remind me of? All right. Another really good thing, if not everybody is a writer, but these days you can journal on your cell phone. All right. Use the Record app. You can journal verbally. You can journal by writing. A really good thing about journaling is that it allows you to externalize. So you're using more senses to think about what you're doing, to appraise. My gosh, here I am again. I didn't want to be here the last time. Here I am again. I've been talking about this for 5 years. I've been moaning about this situation for 5 years. Am I getting that 5 years back? No, I'm not. What can I do about it today to move forward? It can help you track your journey as well. Gosh, I am so glad that I am not in the same headspace and awareness that I was 2 years ago. Wow. You know, I'm really proud of myself for persevering through that. It also helps you reconsider the effects of narcissism on you by rereading your journal entries, and that can help you to realize the wounds. So you journal a situation where someone was narcissistic toward you, and you process all of that out on a pages, all right? And you reread it the next day or 2 days later, you're going to see it through different eyes. All right. And you're going to realize the wounds that you have nothing to do with you. They are, except that you let that person back into your life close enough to hurt you and pull another move on you. All right. Manipulate you. That's your doing. That's not their doing. Can't blame that on them. Don't blame it on yourself either. Just fine tune those antennas so you can spot them further away. But that wound has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. You were always worthy, no matter how you feel right now. From the moment you came into this world, you were always worthy and you were always lovable, and you still are. Despite any negative feelings you have, you still are. You don't have to forgive your father or the significant other for mistreating or neglecting you. You don't have to forgive, all right? Despite what other people say, you don't have to forgive them. But you absolutely do need to forgive yourself. And you need to see how that significant other interfaced in your life was a tough experience. And now I want you to give yourself credit because you're still standing. The best revenge is to survive and live well. You've persevered. Try to persevere, though, with an open, loving heart. Not bitter, not angry, not resentful. Let that go. That's a heavy, heavy load to carry. Package it up. Write it all out. Write it all out. Crumple it up put it in a garbage bag and put that out with the trash. Symbolically, every time, less and less and less, write it out, crumple it up, put it in a garbage bag, put it out with the trash. Don't carry it anymore. Okay? Those feelings deprive you of hope. Now, let's get the support you need that you come out on top. The third strategy is you've got to strengthen your identity so that you're not an easy mark. Okay? You can spot any kind of mistreatment or inappropriate, unhealthy exchange. You can spot it right at the time because in the past, you were told who you should be so frequently that you lost track of your life. Your life may have been to some extent, was certainly defined by them at that time, all right? But maybe you're still doing that. We want your life to be defined by you, for you. You didn't, at that time, under that pressure, under that influence and manipulation, called love and protection and whatever else it was called, you didn't consider your choices. What was the point in having them? You didn't consider your beliefs. Beliefs? I'll believe what I'm told to believe because that's right. You didn't consider your ideals or your ideas. You didn't have the last vote on how you wanted to live at that time. If this was so, that means you didn't learn how to decide and develop you, your ways of being satisfied. And if you don't have your ways that are authentic and true for you to be satisfied, if you don't even know what those are, if you haven't spent the time and energy necessary to figure that out one at a time by making better and better decisions, not best, okay, not ideal, not perfect, better and better. If you haven't done that, is it any wonder you're surrounded by things that are very unsatisfying? Is the problem today that you don't know how to decide and develop you, enough of you? As a result of that, though, many beliefs and feelings that you develop then that maybe you're carrying over that are experiences and feelings out of their time and context, they were created as a defense mechanism. And they may have been incorporated into your behavior system currently without you consciously being aware of the fact. Okay, but I can tell you, if you are uncomfortable, they don't represent who you are today moving forward. You need to sort out what is authentically you, what is true for you, and you need to give it time and space to grow. You need to name it, you need to welcome it, and it's entirely understandable that it would cause confusion, right? But it's no way to live. Don't settle for that. Knowing that your significant other used fears to guide you in whatever direction that suited them and enable their narcissistic supply, all right? Have a good solid look at those fears that you have, those insecurities, those values that don't really, you're saying I should. You know them because you're saying I ought to or I should. You're not saying, yeah, we're doing this. Okay, as soon as should comes into it, it's the right thing to do. No child came up with that expression. No person growing up expresses, okay, yeah. Have a good solid look at those fears and understand who they came from because they didn't come from you. Now, reassure yourself that it's okay to be you, just you. You know why? Because you are enough. All right, face the fears down. Ask yourself, what makes me happy? What would happen if I do what I feel is me today? Take a chance. What's the worst that can happen? It won't quite work out the way you thought it would. Amend it, change it, morph it. When you're doing anything and you have a choice, ask yourself, do I feel more like me when I'm doing this? Is this more organic? Is it more satisfying? Am I getting more out of it? What would it take to become? Ask yourself today, okay? What would it take to become more familiar with me using my strengths? Am I making one by one slightly better decisions? If you don't know how to do that, go back to the podcast on No to Yes by somebody Johnson. All right. I went through that book and gave you all of the really great messages from that book on making better decisions and getting away from perfectionism. Move slowly toward what might be, take the chance, possibly a better choice, because there's always more than one good choice. Ask yourself, is this really what I think? Because if should came or ought to, it got stuck here at the back of your brain, oh no, that's the right thing to do. And based on what? Do I really believe that? Do I really think that? You might, but you might not. Or is that what somebody else, a significant other, thought? And they spoke through me, and now I speak with their voice, not my own. Because why? Because it makes me feel safe and secure. They told me it was the right thing to do. You're going to know if it's the right thing to do. In this, nothing is true or false out of its context. Context is everything. This is your life. It might work. It might have worked well enough at that time. But you really have to question, this many years later, it's still your best choice? What's the chance of that? The context has changed. You've changed. You're not looking at anything like the same situations. Okay? And just check out that it isn't a dominant voice on the committee. All right, because those, got to turn the volume down on those. My favorite is na 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 na. My daughter taught me that. Yeah, and I think it works really, really well. I offer it to you for whatever use you can make of it. The next strategy is to work on developing. We've turned down the volume on the negative talk, negative self-talk, right? Now we have to turn the volume up on the positive self-talk. Okay. Every time you make a mistake, every time you feel worthless, every time you feel inadequate, not good enough, whatever that word is, all right, stop. And on the other side of the equation, remind yourself of something that you do well. Okay, replace messages like I'm worthless, I'll never make it, with I'm unlovable, with I'm worthy of what, and even the one, this is a favorite many people have told me about. I'm worthy of what I get, not what I deserve. Replace it with I am worthy. I will find the worthy way that I believe in to make this happen. And I will make it. It's going to take me a little longer because I have to figure it out. I've been busy living somebody else's life, talking somebody else's speak. High time. Check your birthday. Oh, I'm a little late for showing up for myself. All right. But it starts today. If I'm prepared to do the work, and it is work, because remember, it may not even be the right thing. This is the funny thing. It might not even be any better than many, many other options. But the one you were told is right gives you such security. But part of the reason for that security is you can hang it on somebody else if it doesn't turn out. Part of being an adult and a grown-up and being you is when you do you and it doesn't work out, you have to take responsibility. So what? So what? You learn from it. If it doesn't work out, you learn from it. Okay? So the reason it stands a better chance of working out is if I'm prepared to do the work for it and I'm a lovable person, by the right person, not just any old person, practice that positive self-talk, because it's also based on turning the negative experiences into positive lessons. Yeah, I made a mistake, but I'm a whole lot smarter and wiser for it. And it also is probably the most successful way in altering and reversing your perception. Don't look for someone to trust and count on. Look for yourself. Choose yourself. If you're invisible to someone, your father, your family, you may grow up being invisible to the most important person in your life, you. If you were invisible to them and you stayed invisible doing the good girl thing or the good boy thing, chances are you're invisible to yourself. You haven't filled in your own space, your own colors, your own uniqueness. It sounds so hokey, but it isn't. It's right inside of you. You're here today because you want to find it, because you're committed to finding it. You know you deserve it. All right? To heal, we must first deal with our own ability to say no without feeling guilty. Did somebody say we had to say no? Oh, no. We have to say no. Okay. And more than that, we have to not feel guilty? Is that possible? Yes, it is. I'm here to tell you. Okay. Narcissistic others discouraged acts of self-love. There wasn't room for it. That's why there was not room for it. Only one guy was coming out of this a winner, and it wasn't you. The self-love, acts of self-care, inconvenient, excess to need, not what's required in the situation. You didn't get to practice them enough. Okay. They taught their children, they trained their children, they molded their children to cater to their narcissistic needs. And remember, it doesn't have to be the aggressive, overt narcissist who is powerful and dominates. It could be the covert narcissist who's needy and always needs something. And it's not that you don't have needs, but I need it more, and you feel guilty, and you feel like to be a good, loving, whatever relationship, I need to take care of them first. We fall into it so easily. A little side joke, just to show you we're all human. I'm not exempt. The other day, while I was booking those COVID vaccines, while I was searching for 2 other adults, because I was going to book myself anyway, right? That's what I told myself. I went all over the province just about and ended up 3 hours away. Guess who I booked first? The 2 other people. It gets to be a habit. You don't even think about it. I booked them first, and guess what? When I booked them, all the spots disappeared. And then I had to go back in, and I had to find another day. I have to wait another week. They're retired. They're not out with people. I'm out with some people. I've got probably 5 or 6 really vulnerable people that I go out to. And I thought, oh, you're going to have to own up to that one on the podcast, Elaine. Okay. It happens. All right. Yeah, I got one. I got a vaccine, but that was a lesson learned. Like, okay, Okay? Just to say, you have to really keep your antenna in operating order. Okay, so to break free, it's important to learn to clearly recognize your own needs and then prioritize them. Are they always more important than other people's? No, but they have to have the right to be when it's appropriate. All right, they have to have the right to be when it's appropriate. This isn't about being selfish. This is about being equal. In real terms, equal. You're probably very familiar with the guilt you feel for saying no to other people's requests or demands, or even just sometimes their expectations. And it's probably a result of being raised by someone who had more rights, let's call them a narcissist, in a dysfunctional family. And you know what? We don't have to diss our families. The question isn't, did you grow up in a dysfunctional family? People are human. The question is, in what way was your family dysfunctional? Every family, there's no perfect family. Every family could use some adjustments, but it bears looking at and it bears not repeating it. You learn to be providers, caretakers, nurturers. Okay, why? Because that's the role you took on for so long, giving your energy to people who mostly didn't deserve it any more than you did. Watch it. Healthy boundaries will additionally push away people. This is a good thing. When you set healthy boundaries, woohoo, they will push people away who are selfishly using you. You will become inconvenient. Bonus. That is a bonus. All right? That's a good thing. And taking from you without giving back, because what is the sign of a healthy relationship? Equal reciprocity. Equal reciprocity. The other thing it will do is it will draw healthy people toward you. People who themselves have healthy boundaries and limits or are working on them. You know why? Because they will respect you. You know why they'll respect you? Because they respect themselves. And that'll be a protection for you as well. They won't have to be doing things at your expense. They won't have to be making you feel small or inadequate or selfish or just you're too sensitive. Oh no, you misunderstood. My intent was something else. Well, your intent is one thing. Your effect is something else. I determine your effect because it's according to my feelings. It's according to my needs. You don't get to tell me I don't get my feelings. I'm not entitled to them because you intended something else. Well, you go back and practice that intent because it didn't work. What it accomplished was it makes me feel in a negative way, and I'm entitled to that. All right. They also will appreciate the energy you have to offer. So know that establishing boundaries, setting limits, asserting them, it's not just having them. Now you got to practice them and assert them. It works like a muscle. The first few times you do it, feels really uncomfortable, feels really awkward. Get used to it. Get ready for it. All right. After that, you begin to feel more at peace, more certain. Start small and reject invitations or requests that suck your energy or make you feel, I'm not sure that gives me anything. Okay. Rather than give your energy. Reparent yourself. The only person who could ever parent you effectively, 100% effectively, is you. All right. All parents make mistakes. Some make more than others. all right, depending on what the role of the child was in their life. Reparenting yourself means reaching that part of you, as hokey as it sounds, it is that little kid still inside you reacting, still being susceptible to hurt and messages not being good enough, not being judged, not being accepted, all right, not being loved. Embrace it. Embrace that part of yourself and teach it love instead of fear. Talk to that part of yourself, as silly as it sounds, as though you were talking to a child out here, holding its hand, trying to explain that you're with them and there's nothing to be afraid of because you're the adult and your antennae are in really good shape. You're going to spot anything coming and they're okay. We're going to be okay. Talk to them just like they were a child you were holding hand, because they're more than that. They're actually that child you're holding the hand of. They're inside of you holding on for dear life. Those damaged parts of ourselves. We're at all times, we can all be afraid we're not good enough. Sometimes that child is afraid that they weren't attractive enough, successful enough, pretty enough, whatever it is that they got judged. Sometimes they were punished and manipulated by being ignored, judged, criticized. When you reparent yourself, that includes taking a step back from how you were raised, all right? Appreciating the positives, but also taking on responsibility and the work for reversing the role of a dysfunctional parent. What did they not provide you? What did they not expose you to? What did they not give you a chance to experience? And then, for heaven's sakes, give it to yourself, right? Give yourself everything you need and that you needed then by being yourself, by accepting yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. You're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Give yourself love. Give yourself gentleness. Give yourself kindness. Give yourself forgiveness. If there's something that you need to apologize for, you've hurt somebody, you've done something that was wrong, go and make it right to the best of your ability and cut yourself loose from the guilt. Forgive yourself. Promise to do better. Okay. This will include becoming more visible to yourself. You then will not be this little unsure in certain situations. You will be, you know what? Here I am. What's the worst that can happen? I don't know how I'm going to deal with it or handle it. I can't know ahead of time, but I've handled so much in the past that I know I'll find a way. And if I can't figure it out, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to give myself the right to the time to think about it and figure it out. And treat yourself the way you wanted to be treated then. Okay? It will make you feel safer. Don't impose self-criticism and unrealistic expectations on yourself. Stop when you find yourself doing that. All right? Be you moving forward. Ask yourself, is this me moving forward, or is it who I want to be, who someone told me I should be, who I believe will get the most acceptance, but it's not actually me? Is this me moving forward? What do I need all together now? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Have an imperfect week, everybody, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. You take care. See you next week. Oh, next week we're going to do, I've been asked to do a really intensive, as a result of COVID temptations, a really intensive online shopping piece. Okay, I've had about 3 requests from people. I can't do anything else but be online. The pop-ups keep coming. My credit card is squeaking and screaming. Can you do something on compulsive online shopping? Because I think I'm becoming compulsive. Okay, so we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care. Thanks for coming.